Hello and welcome back everyone to Stylus Environments with Blender for Geometry Nodes. In the last lesson we left ourselves off by creating some nice tiles across the top section of the roof, and now we need to talk a little bit in regards to the overall overlay of the frame. And the top of the roof, if we were to just add a couple of planks over here and then drag it downwards like so, it's going to look a little bit too flat for starters, and it also might not look structurally sound. So what I mean by that is, if we were to go back onto our setup for the plan, we're going to basically have the main beam going across like so. That's going to be supported by the vertical wooden beams. And then if we were to just add the one that's on the top and the sides, that's going to make the base of the frame. Then afterwards, we need to decide how it's going to make it seem more structurally sound with additional framework. And by that, I mean the one on the middle, you can see that it's going to be a little bit wider. That's going to help it be less looking like it's less wobbles. And then we're going to add another frame going horizontally over here. And normally you'd have a type of a framework that's going to be just simple vertical like this. But in this particular case, to make it more stylized, we decided to go for, we're going to be going basically with more curved types. So it's going to be slightly more curved like so. That's going to help it sell in regards to how the overall style of the roof looks like. The slanted look of the overall roof is already here, which we're going to actually deform it a little bit to make it a little bit going inwards instead of just having it flat straight line like so. And in regards to the bottom, usually you would have things to make it less wobbly. You'd have also another supports like this going across like so. In this particular case, again, we're going to go for a more curved type of a wood on here as well. So we're going to make sure it's like slightly curved on these edges. And in regards to the back side, we can see we have some work as well to be done. We're going to add a nice structural beam over here. And to be honest, we could leave it as is. If not, we wanted to make sure it's a little bit more covered up for the well. So for that, we're going to add a wall on these sides over here. And just to make it look less plain, we're going to add some small wooden beams going across, which will also make it look a little bit more structurally sound, whilst at the same time, it helps us break up that wall to make it look a little bit more decorative, basically. And with that in mind, we're going to start working basically on the overall setup. So let's go ahead and get right into it. We're going to start off by getting ourselves done with these beams over here. So then we're going to start moving upwards and just kind of connect basically everything with wooden supports. So this particular part is actually going to be quite simple. And I did mention that we're going to slightly adjust the roof itself, which I think it's about time that we're going to do it. The reason being is that, yeah, let's go ahead and start with the roof. If we were to click on free, there we go, we're going to see that the roof is completely straight. We don't want this to happen. We want to have some bit of variation in regards to its height. So one way to do it would be to either use proportional editing and just slightly drag it downwards with both of these selected and we have the selection in the middle. The alternative way is to use deformation for the lattice, I believe it's called. And that's going to give us a nice setup. But before doing that, let's go ahead and actually apply the beveling on these edges. Or actually, I'm thinking if we even should. I think both of them. Yeah, both of them should use the same variation. So let's go ahead and actually grab these, both of them, and click Ctrl and J. And what you'll notice is that this actually bevel slightly changes. The reason being is that both of these had the same bevel, but the amount of the bevel was a little bit smaller for the top, which in this case, it actually works out. So basically from the main selection, it gets applied onto the top and it gives us the modifiers from one object to another. That's why before joining, it's actually usually better to make sure we apply the modifiers before and get ourselves just non-modified version of the mesh. When we join, it's going to be looking exactly as it looked before. So anyways, going back to the setup, we're going to now actually minimize this bevel. We're going to find ourselves a deformer called Mesh Deform, I believe, called Lattice. So this one is going to give us a control over the overall shape. But for us to actually use that, If you'll notice at the lattice, it says object selection. We do need to create ourselves a new object to have control over this roof. Let's go ahead and do that. We're going to hit Shift and A. We're going to find ourselves something called lattice. And once we add it in, we can see that we have something like a box. We can click GZ and see how it looks like. And this is what we're going to get. We're going to actually upscale this a little bit. So let's go ahead and do that. We need to make sure that it encompasses the entire roof like so. We can click SZ to make it smaller like so. And we do need to control in regards to its subdivision level. So what I mean by that is if we were to go to the data over here, we have resolution for each one of these points. So U, V, and W, these are basically X, Y, and Z. We can just go ahead and increase it and see which one is affecting what. So we actually need to increase the V over here. And I'm going to just do it 5 times so we can see we get extra edge loops over here. And now once we go back to our roof, and I just realized that this other side is not actually joined. So let me just go ahead and actually join it up. So this entire roof now is properly joined. And now we can go back onto the modifier and actually add the lattice again. Because again, when I was joining, it was the one side I wasn't selected actually did not have a lattice. So I'm just needing to re-add it like so. So once we have lattice, we're just simply going to click on this pipette over here, select lattice object like so. And now once we go back onto the object, actually, let me check. The strength has to be set as 1. Once we go back onto this object, we can now select these vertices over here like so. And you can see us, when we raise these, it's actually going to be deforming the roof itself. And that's exactly what we want. We want to straight, really a little amount, just lower it down like so. Maybe raise these ones at the back a little bit, just like that. And we're going to get just a slight bit of curve, but it's going to be enough to make it look much nicer, more stylized. I'm going to now go ahead and apply this lattice. Going to remove this lattice box, and it's now going to be nicely curved. You can click free and we can see a slight bit of a curve, which is exactly what we want. Okay, so now we can actually start working on these setups over here. This part is going to be rather simple. All we need to do is just add a bit of texture to it. And I do think, looking back at the reference, we do actually need to increase the beam length over here. So you can see it's actually going all the way to the top section of where the triangle begins. So we need to make sure we raise this up. So if I were to go on to edit mode, we can click Alt Z, by the way, just to see what it looks like. Actually, this is the part that we need to raise it up. So we can now click GZ and move it upwards to where it actually starts with the triangle. So like so, and it's going to be quite all right. Now we're going to go ahead and actually set ourselves up with, let me just go ahead and check real quick. Yeah, I think that's quite all right. Now we're going to go ahead and actually set ourselves up with the texture for it. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to go ahead and click Alt and A, rotation and scale reset, or apply that in this case. And yeah, that's going to be quite all right. And actually it is done with the roof. Now we have a nice deformer. We are going to continue on with the framework in the next lesson. I reckon that's going to be for the best of us. And it's going to be a rather short lesson in this case. So yeah, this is it from this lesson. Thank you so much for watching, and I will be seeing you in a bit.